Battering women and domestic violence, when will it end? It's interesting to know that domestic violence is like a virus at home. My name is Savoke Fikoro, and in this action project, I'll be talking about battering women and domestic violence. When will it end? Battering women and domestic violence. When will it end, you may ask? Sometimes you may even wonder, will it ever end? Because this is becoming a domestic violence is becoming a common thing in most homes. Women are the victims. Children are victims as well because they witness it. Will it ever end? You may ask, what is domestic violence? Domestic violence is the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, or other abusive behavior as part of a systematic pattern of power and control perpetrated by an intimate partner against another. Most especially, on most occasions, is the male partner against the female partner. The one constant component of domestic violence is one partner's consistent effort to maintain power and control over the other, which is very bad and sad. From the womb to the grave, women fall victims to violence worldwide. The abuse is about power and control. It is just a way of men showing their dominant status over women. And the violence seems like it will never stop. Domestic violence presently is an emerging crime in our homes and societies like a communicable disease. Reports from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence shows an estimated 1 in 10 women will be seriously assaulted, hit, kicked, beaten, or worse by her husband, sometimes during her marriage. And when serious cases are included, 1 in 2 women in the United States will experience domestic violence, according to the magazine Family Relation. Up to 57% of all homeless women report domestic violence as the immediate cause of their homelessness. Factors responsible for domestic violence. The media. The media fuels and funds the social ill called domestic violence via movies glorifying violence against women. We also have individual factors, individual risk factors. People who suffer from low self-esteem and self-confidence become abusers or victims. Then we have relationship factors. Economic stress, unhealthy family relationships, marital instability can trigger domestic violence in the home. The community is also a part of the problem. Community factors. Factors such as poverty, prejudice, weak community sanctions, lack of institutions can also encourage domestic violence. Legal and political factors. Bad legal and political structures often result in encourage domestic violence. And we should not forget also that substance abuse can also lead to domestic violence. Like abuse of alcohol, abuse of drugs can cause or lead to domestic violence. Effects of domestic violence. We have emotional abuse, economic abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. All these are effects of domestic violence. Homicide effects. According to a recent report from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, NCADV, 72% of all murder suicides are perpetrated by intimate partners. 94% of murder suicide victims are female. This report shows that 1 in 3 female murder victims are killed as a result of domestic violence. We have the economic effects. Victims of domestic violence lose a total of 8 million days of paid work each year, which is the equivalent of 32,000 full-time jobs, according to the NCADV. Physical health factors. or physical health effects of domestic violence. In physical abuse, the assault is with the fist, while in emotional abuse, the assault is with words. The only difference is the choice of weapons. Health effects of domestic violence. Victims of domestic violence are at increased risk of contracting sexually transmitted diseases such as HIV or STIs due to forced intercourse or prolonged exposure to stress. Emotional effects of domestic violence. Victims of domestic violence are not spared from emotional violence and its effects. Emotional violence is like a stab of a sword. In the US, over 3 million children witness domestic violence annually, and children who live in homes with domestic violence often struggle to trust the people in their lives. They worry about their future, and there are other side effects of domestic violence on children. We all must take action to stop domestic violence. The responsibility and the ability to stop domestic violence falls on all of us. We must take action against domestic violence because action changes things. According to Neil L. Jacobson, a batterer who has assaulted his wife is no less a criminal than a man who has punched a stranger. That being said, it we should all recognize and agree that domestic violence offenders are criminals. We have to act against domestic violence. We have to stop the violence. We all have to join voices, join the movement against this monster called domestic violence. When you see something, say something. Do not close your mouth. Do not stay intimidated. There is help if you are a victim. Speak up. Join voices with millions of other victims to say enough is enough. This monster must be eliminated from our society. If you are a victim of domestic violence, seek assistance. Everyone must be compassionate and support victims of domestic violence. Everyone must make it their duty to educate themselves about domestic violence, to understand and resist this monster. We must train and educate people about the dangers of domestic violence. We have to stop domestic violence. Do not sit down and watch innocent people die from domestic violence. If you are a healthcare worker or a healthcare professional, you must be more involved in assisting to identify the monster as early as possible. Government should set up more stricter laws to punish domestic violence offenders. And if you are a victim, do not close your mouth. Speak out. There is always help. The law will fight for you. Call these numbers for immediate help. The National Domestic Violence Hotline. There is help for you. Just call and you will get help. I hope every one of us will join hands to stand against this monster called domestic violence. I hope every one of us will join me, every one of you will join me to say enough is enough of this monster so that we can put an end to it once and for all. Thank you.